Let's continue with Chapter 9 and finish this story. Christopher Robin lived at the top of the very top of the forest. It rained and rained and it rained, and the water wouldn't come up to his house. It was rather jolly to look down to the valleys and see the water all around him, but it rained so hard that he stayed indoors most of the time and thought about things. Every morning he went out with his umbrella and put a stick in the place where the water came up to, and every next morning he went out and couldn't see his stick anymore, so he put another stick in the place where the water had come up to, and then he walked home again. And each morning he had a shorter way to walk than he had the day before. On the morning of the 5th day, he saw the water all around him and knew that for the first time in his life he was on a real island, which was very exciting. It was on this morning that Owl came flying over the water to say, "How do you do?" to his friend Christopher Robin. "I say, Owl," said Christopher Robin, "isn't it fun? I'm on an island." "The atmospheric conditions have been unfavorable lately," said Owl. "The what?" "It has been raining," explained Owl. "Yes," said Christopher Robin, "it has. The flood level has reached an unprecedented height." "The who?" "There's a lot of water about," explained Owl. "Yes," said Christopher Robin, "there is. However, the prospects are rapidly becoming more favorable. At any moment—" "Have you seen Pooh?" "Well, no, at any moment—" "I hope he's all right," said Christopher Robin. "I've been wondering about him. I expect Piglet's with him. Do you think they're all right, Owl?" "I expect so. You see, at any moment—" "Do go and see, Owl, because Pooh hasn't got very much brain, and he might do something silly. And I do love him so. Owl, do you see Pooh? Owl, do you see, Owl?" "That's all right," said Owl. "I'll go. Back directly," and flew off. And then he flew off. In a little while he was back again. "Pooh isn't there," he said. "Not there?" "He's been there. He's been sitting on a branch of a tree outside his house now with 9 pots of honey. But he isn't there now." "Oh!" cried Christopher Robin. "Where are you, Pooh?" "Here I am," said a growly voice behind him. "Pooh!" They rushed into each other's arms. "How'd you get here, Pooh?" asked Christopher Robin when he was ready to talk again. "On my boat," said Pooh proudly. "I had a very important message sent to me in a bottle owing to having got some water in my eyes, I couldn't read it. So I brought it to you on my boat." With these proud words he gave Christopher Robin the message. "But it's from Piglet," cried Christopher Robin when he had read it. "Isn't there anything about Pooh in it?" he asked Bear, looking over his shoulder. Christopher Robin read the message aloud. "Oh, those peas... Oh, are those peas Piglets? I thought they were Poohs." "You must rescue him at once. I thought he was with you. Pooh, Owl, could you rescue him on your back?" "I don't think so," said Owl, after grave thought. "It is doubtful if the necessary dorsal muscles." "Then would you fly to him at once and say that the rescue is coming? And Pooh and I will think of a rescue and come back as quick as ever we can." "Oh, don't talk, Owl. Go on quick." And still thinking of something to say, Owl flew off. "I ought to say," exclaimed... "Oh, now then, Pooh," said Christopher Robin, "where's your boat?" "I ought to say," exclaimed Pooh as they walked down to the shore of the island, "that isn't just an ordinary sort of boat. Sometimes it's a boat, and sometimes it's more an accident. It all depends." "Depends on what?" "On whether I'm on top of it or underneath it." "Oh, well, where is it?" "There," said Pooh, pointing proudly to the floating bear. It wasn't what Christopher Robin expected, and the more he looked at it, the more he thought what a brave and clever Pooh Bear was. And the more Christopher Robin thought on this, the more Pooh looked modestly down his nose and tried to pretend he wasn't. "But sadly, it's too small for 2 of us," said Christopher Robin. "That makes 3 of us, with Piglet." That makes it smaller still. Oh, Pooh, what shall we do?" And then this bear, Pooh Bear, Winnie the Pooh, FOP, Friend of Piglets, RC, Rabbit's Companion, PD, Pole Discoverer, EC, and TF, Eeyore's Comforter and Tail Finder. Phone, be quiet. In fact, Pooh himself said something so clever that Christopher Robin could only look at him, with a mouth open and eyes very staring, wondering if it was really the bear, very little brain, who had known and loved so long. "We might go into your umbrella," said Pooh. At this point, there's just question marks, so, "We might go to your umbrella," said Pooh. "We might go to your umbrella," said Pooh. "We might go to your umbrellas," said Pooh, and then there's just exclamation marks. For suddenly Christopher Robin saw that they might. He opened his umbrella and put the point downwards in the water. It floated but wobbled. Pooh got in. He was just beginning to say and that it was all right now, and when he found out it wasn't, so after a short drink, which he really didn't mind, he waded back to Christopher Robin, and then they both got together and wobbled no longer. "I shall call this boat the Brain of Pooh," said Christopher Robin. "The Brain of Pooh shall set forthwith in a southwesterly direction, resolving gracefully." You can imagine Pooh's joy when at last the ship came in sight of Piglet's joy. You can imagine Piglet's joy when at last the ship came into sight of him. In after years, he liked to think that he had been in a very great danger during this terrible flood. But the only danger he had really been in was when the last half hour of his imprisonment, when Owl, who had just flown up, sat on a branch of his tree to comfort him, and told him a very long story about an ant who once laid a seagull's egg by mistake, and the story went on and on, rather like this sentence, until Piglet, who was listening out of his window, without much hope, went to sleep quietly and naturally, slipping slowly out of the window towards the water, until he was only hanging upon by his toes, which at that moment, luckily, a sudden loud squawk from Owl, which was really part of the story, began what his aunt said, woke up Piglet and gave him just in time to jerk himself back from the water into safety. And how interesting, and did she? When, well, you can imagine the joy of when at last saw the ship. Well, how interesting, and did she? When? Well, you can imagine his joy when at last he saw the good ship, the Brain of Pooh, Captain C. Robin, First Mate P. Bear, coming over the sea to rescue him. Christopher Robin and Pooh again. And it is really at the end of this story, and as I'm very tired after that last sentence, I think I shall stop there. Oh, this is wonderful. So here's Pooh Bear riding on his boat. And here's Pooh Bear getting into that umbrella, and you can probably see all those exclamation marks. I like this one, the Owl and Piglet in the tree, and Piglet is jerking himself back. And then the Brain of Pooh coming up underneath. Alright, Christy, I love you dearly. We're last chapter of this book, chapter 10, in which Christopher Robin gives Pooh a party, and we say goodbye. Just for that one, because then we have another Pooh Bear book coming afterwards. So I love you dearly, Christy. Sleep well, keep calm, fond lama, carry on, and I'll talk to you soon. Good night, sweetheart.